Hi, I'm Brendan Crosdale, and welcome to the LAN Party. I'm here today with our producer and co-host, Andrew Nelson.
Hello.
The first sword of Bravos, Mike McLaughlin.
The one and only.
And the ever-present Baron of the West End, James Lowry.
Hey, guys.
We're hanging out today. We're.
Did he tell you to say the first sword of Bravos?
No, I told him I had a title this week.
That is pretty perfect.
It's very apt.
Yeah.
Yes. We're hanging out today. We're surviving. That's the way to describe it up here in Maine. It's been a shitty winter.
It's a trudge through the last few weeks of winter.
I feel psychologically worn this year and more acutely than any past winter I can remember.
I don't think I've ever come so close to agoraphobia in my life. I don't ever want to leave my house until all this snow is gone.
Yeah, it's misery. I've actually, at this point, I've lost proper function of my right hand to winter, which is drastically altered.
Winter broke your hand.
Yeah, so I'm in a bad place in terms of the games I can play. But
Well, you did jump in on some Crucible and Destiny and still top our
yes,
player board.
it
Which
probably disfigured the bones in my hand. Score. That's a terrible idea. But I think it sort of led me to a topic, which is sort of what are we doing to survive the winter right now? Because there was a glut of games that came out in the holiday season. Everybody's sort of attacking their backlogs and working towards the few delayed releases that have been coming out. So I'd be interested to talk to people about what they're playing. I think for myself, the preface being that because my right hand is broken, I can't really operate twin sticks properly. So shooters are kind of out. Because even though I can do it, it causes pain and probably is not letting it heal correctly.
filthy casual.
Yeah. So it's pushed me onto some other titles. And it's actually let me attack some games on my backlog I wanted to. I Platinum Transistor. So I went back and played through that.
Nice.
And finished off the trophies. That took a little more work than I thought it was going to, but that game is just awesome. It's super fun to play. I was having a lot of fun with it.
Transistor's the one where with the jazz singer and
Yeah.
And the what with the what and the has the
That's the
what
one.
with
Yeah,
the-
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it was Super Giant Games put it out. It came out close to launch the PS4, but not quite at launch. And I guess it's a tactical RPG.
Oh, and sorry, guys, it was up for free on the PlayStation Network for February, and so now we're informing you
now.
that you're gonna just have to pay the company some US dollars to play it.
Well, depending on when you listen to it, actually, you may still have the chance to. They delayed announcing March's games. So it will still be the PlayStation Plus game likely by Monday when this posts.
I love the sound design in that game. I haven't actually played it myself, but I've watched it played a decent amount. The music is fantastic.
It's a
voice
real
acting.
treat.
Yeah, the
I like the
voice
isometric
acting.
view. It brings me back to the 90s.
Yeah. It's really pretty, both in the aesthetics in it, like the music and the visual arts are just gorgeous, but it's also pretty in the way it's laid out for you to play it. Because it has a very simple concept that it just sort of keeps iterating on and making slightly more complex as the game goes on. It's really fun to play. Like, straight up to the Platinum, it was a pretty easy road through the trophies where you never felt like you were overplaying it just to get the last few achievements. You were just sort of continuing on the progression.
And it makes setting up your setup and how your powers and abilities are going to react. There's only so many different combinations that you can do of them. However, there's that wonderful feeling when you go, hey, wait a minute, what if I stick this power on this power to combine their effects? And you get something like a multi-bounce strike that causes stun on every hit, and you just feel like the coolest kid in school.
Yeah.
So basically, there's some ability crafting as you play the game of like you're able to do a bunch of different things that might not necessarily be stock abilities, but through the layering of abilities, you can sort of create your own play style.
You pick up new abilities from it's kind of a Mega Man style system. You beat people, and there's something very strange going on in this little universe. What was it? You're in a cloud, so it's a bit kind of like...
We're talking about a data cloud, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So imagine sort of a Who Framed Roger Rabbit meets Tron.
Yeah.
And
That's a really good way to put it.
Super accurate.
And so it's so incredibly 1920s sort of themed. And as you go along, this sword of yours, which has taken the sort of consciousness of your bodyguard after you got stabbed through with it.
No.
And he's your Mr. Smooth talking emotional support who sounds like Alec Baldwin. And
Like Alec Baldwin in The Shadow.
Yeah.
not nearly as overdone.
Oh,
No, it's not very melodramatic, but it is really, really noir-y.
I mean, whoever, I unfortunately don't know the voice actor's name. However, you know that his girlfriends probably wanted to call him a lot to just hear him sort of drone over on the other side. It's such a just lovely, calming, soothing voice.
Baby, I forgot the grocery list. Can you read it to me again? Yeah, it was eggs.
we needed eggs,
Stick of butter.
stick of butter,
Can we tell you
bananas.
one more time? I needed Count Chocula.
Don't worry, baby. I put a dark chocolate bar on there because I know how much you love those.
Yeah.
But for a kind of, what is it, a top-down, off-angle,
Isometric.
asymmetric scroller?
Isometric.
Isometric scroller.
Michael's over here just making.
He's making walrus fangs and things. he's just there's just too much sugar in him now. He's hyped up. I think it's true. I think winter hasn't made this man snap.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
I was drinking sugar-free Red Bulls. I'll have you know.
God.
Number one, number two.
Give me the bat. Give me the bat. I'm not gonna hit you with it. I'm gonna beat your fucking brains in.
Yeah.
Shining. I think we all can relate to The Shining around this time of year.
Yes. Yes. It's good. Well, actually, James's neighbors, not 30 feet from where we're sitting, have constructed a snow fort that's adult size.
It's adult sized, and there's a fire in it.
There's a fire pit. They built a bench with padding. They have little cubby holes to act as fridges to hold all their drinks. It's ingenious, really.
That is
They
awesome.
even carved out a spot for their daughter's little cutesy chairs. I mean, oh yeah, and the daughter went around with food coloring and decorated the whole thing. So
my God.
one side as you walk in has this big and cursive welcome.
Aw.
Well, I was going to say, too, hitting on the free games for this month, they also gave away 2 other really good games. One that is probably a 10, and that's Rogue Legacy.
I've seen a lot of people on my PSN friends list playing that. I have zero idea of what it is.
Oh my god, it's amazing. So Rogue Legacy is it's basically it's a roguelike in its core. So you die, you lose everything, you come back.
Okay.
But it's not a roguelike in the sense that there's a progression that goes on from that. The gold accumulated or resources accumulated from the last time you ran the dungeon, you get to spend on upgrades for the character that comes next. But the conceit of the game is that you're playing as your child. So you died in the castle, and then your child grows up and becomes the new hero and plays through. And the game has this system built into it where the attributes of your children are determined by the genetics. So your heirs can be born and they can be stronger, and they can have, they can be a larger character. They'll have gigantism and they'll be a larger model on the screen, or they'll have dwarfism and they'll be smaller, things like
Color
that.
blindness.
Yeah.
Reading on the Wikipedia, they can have ADHD.
Yeah. The factors become ridiculous. Like they can have irritable bowel syndromes when they jump, they poop. if they have glaucoma, you can't see close to your character. It's all blurry, but far away you can see better. If they have and it's all these various maladies that kind of go into it.
I would like to remind everyone in the audience that despite his deep voice, he is in fact a child.
Yeah.
Sitting with us talking about poop.
Yeah, poop. Poop's a popular subject. Poop. We got followers if we talk about poop.
Probably true.
Everybody does poop.
Yeah. But the sick thing
relatable.
about the game is that it's basically Castlevania. When you play through it, it plays exactly like an old school Castlevania. And it has the Symphony of Night kind of Metroidvania-ness to it, where if you unlock new abilities, you can access rooms that previously you couldn't go through. Mm-hmm. The dungeon is procedurally generated every time you play it, unless you pay this guy to lock it from the last time, but then it reduces the treasure you can get each playthrough. So it basically just has this addictive circle of trying to get further than you got last time, unlock more abilities than you had last time, and then kind of strategically maneuver your way around the attributes it gives you and the classes that the characters have unlocked, so you can use whatever skill set you have to have the most success. I've fallen into it semi-hard, but not nearly as hard as our friend Lucas. I got a text from him, actually,
Olsen?
Yeah, Lucas Olsen.
Oh.
I recommended it for him because I knew he was a big Castlevania, big fan of Symphony of the Night along with me. And I was like, man, you're really going to like this game. So we started playing it beginning of the month. And so I got a text from him yesterday that reads, "And lo, Sir Taco the Fifth, Assassin of the Crown, 196th child of his cursed bloodline did slayeth the final horrors within the castle in the year of our Lord 6,000 something AD. Because every time you die, it adds like another like 10, 15 years to the clock. And you start in like, it's like the 1400s and then it just keeps going forward. And obviously the more times you die, you just go way into the future eventually. But I mean, it is one of those things, like it has an incredible sense of achievement when you kill any of the bosses or get further in it. And it's so tightly built as a platformer and so like dedicated to how much it wants to just bring the gameplay of Castlevania. It works really well. So I'm having a lot of fun with that, but I didn't fall into it nearly as hard as I did with him, mostly because I also downloaded the Telltale Games bundle when it was on sale.
So I had you explain that a little bit to me earlier. It's kind of, the Telltale Games is sort of this, it's almost like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
They're get to dictate the storyline, the plot line of how a story progresses. Basically.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, they're basically a choose your own adventure book married with the old computer point and click adventures.
Like Myst and Riven and
right, but not nearly as puzzly. Okay. They've sort of stripped out the kind of arcaneness of those.
So like Grim Fandango.
Yeah, but not even that hard. They've taken out all of the, and that's actually a pretty hard point and click adventure. It's kind of arcane in places, but they've taken all of that out in place of you just driving the narrative. So if you do make mistakes, like you don't find an item on a screen, it just kind of changes the way the plot goes. You don't just sit there for days wondering, clicking on the lamp or the bookshelf or whatever, hoping something pops. It doesn't have any of that kind of advancement. But it really forces you to weigh your choices with the narrative. I'll preface this with saying I didn't play through The Walking Dead when it was new. And I didn't play through season 2 of that, obviously. I've been saving them for a rainy day. Breaking my hand has been an ideal rainy day. But when I went back to these, I started with Game of Thrones and Borderlands because those have the least episodes out because they're currently unfinished. Really liked where both of those were going. I liked Game of Thrones because it felt like the show. I liked the art style and everything.
I saw somebody actually playing that at the Barcade.
Yeah.
A few days ago. At Arcadia National Bar in Portland. They have apparently they have a lot of people who like playing those Telltale games while they sit at a bar and drink.
Yeah, well, and they're fun to watch because it's like a TV show.
Yeah. Well, this guy kept dying over and over again in this one scene, and I was like, I don't know if this is part of the story because it's a George R.R. Martin novel. Yeah. Like, are you supposed to just die over and over again?
Yeah. Well, the one that resonated with me the most was The Wolf Among Us. And it's gorgeous, like in every way. It has this really, really awesome comic book art style that they iterated on what they had done with The Walking Dead to make it look more like the Fables comics. And then they obviously got what they wanted to do with that story really well, which is it's a noir detective story.
Is The Wolf Among Us a pre-existing storyline, or is it something that they made for the Telltale games?
The characters pre-existed. I don't know, because I haven't read Fables. I don't think the exact storyline that plays out in the game is one that actually happened in the comics. But it uses the characters they built. Because you play as Bigby, who's the big bad wolf, and you're solving a murder mystery in the game, basically, that has occurred in Fabletown and sort of discovering what goes along. But it has this 80s bend to the music and the art where everything's very like high neon and it has all this synth going on in it. And it drips with so much style from every part of it. And the narrative, the mystery that they built is so good that literally down to the 11th hour of it, you're totally engrossed. And then the way it sets up its sequel is just a brutal cliffhanger, like horrendous, just holding you over the ledge. Like, yeah, and it's probably not even until 2 years from now. Good luck. Like, oh no!
Do those games really have that long of a dev time?
Yeah, I think Telltale's in a weird place because they were not particularly successful until The Walking Dead. They had some hot and cold receptions to their games. They did Sam and Max and Back to the Future.
Well, it seems like they just like popped out of the woodwork like 6 or 8 months ago.
Well, when they did, it was a little bit before that. Like 2 years ago, they got Game of the Year nods and got it a couple of places for The Walking Dead, which is critically acclaimed for being amazing. And it was a huge IP for them because The Walking Dead was doing so well with the TV show at the same time.
Yeah.
And that, I think, unlocked the door for them to get a much more relevant IPs, and they finally hit their stride with how to make these stories work. So then when they announced the Fables run and they did The Wolf Among Us, that was another really tightly told, really good story. And that has given them access to more things, like the Borderlands and then Game of Thrones, which is another huge IP. Mm-hmm. They also, this past week, announced that they're partnering with Lionsgate to produce something called a Super Show, which is like a hybrid between a video game and a television show.
Interesting.
We don't know what it means, but it does mean most likely what we're going to get out of it is a Telltale's version of what are they? The Hunger Games, because that's that's Lionsgate's biggest IP they have going right now.
Yeah.
So it'll be
First
interesting.
thing I'm thinking of is those board games they used to sell back in the 90s where the game would come with a videotape.
Yeah.
And, to play along with the movie kind of thing.
yeah,
And you're
that
sitting there
reminds
going,
me-
wow, that would be so great if I just somehow didn't instinctively know it was going to suck.
That-
So I'm hoping that with new technology that we're going to get a better experience out of it. But I don't know. I'm terrified of the conversations of what would go on between a department head at a game development firm and a TV producer sitting there talking. I feel like the forces of evil would start to gather.
Well, that reminds me of a game I played back in the late 90s. And actually, we generally don't talk about mediums outside of video games. Occasionally we talk about comic books on the podcast, but I just want to talk about Blade Runner 2 was a sequel, I believe. I don't know if it was a prequel or a sequel, was confirmed earlier this
Assuming
week.
yeah, they're doing a sequel
Yeah.
for it. I don't know.
All I've heard is that Harrison Ford is reprising his role.
I don't like that, but we can get into that later. It's being the guy who
Look
was
out,
directing
Harrison
it
Ford.
recently did Prisoners with Jake Gyllenhaal, and it was really good, beautifully shot movie. So I have a little bit of hope, but it was the Blade Runner video game. It was a point and shoot adventure game, and that actually has me kind of hoping that maybe when they do Blade Runner 2, they'll get a dev team together to do another Blade Runner game.
That
because
could be a lot of fun.
I
like you
love
got to
the
use
Blade
certain
Runner
abilities to hunt synthetics
Yeah.
throughout a constantly changing environment.
Even then, I would just like another point and click adventure game in
Yeah.
the universe.
I think
I found the snake scales.
yeah, a lot of people were waiting for the bottom to fall out again on Telltale just because of how they abused some of the IPs they had earlier in the run. But I think right now they're in a good position where if they keep getting new and interesting content to work with, they know how to make the game so that it's fun. I mean, from a gameplay perspective, the games they're kind of infantile and basic. You don't really have to do a lot. There's active time events in them, and then you make plot decisions. And those basically help the narrative play out the way you're hoping it's going to. You get to play your character and decide what it is you want to do. But they're not challenging games. And I think at their core, that's kind of what makes them successful. Because you get way more invested in the narrative, which is a very well told story, very well voice acted, reasonably well animated. The biggest drawbacks to the game is how fucking flawed the engine is. Because when you're playing the games, you get so immersed in the narrative that if it glitches, it ruins it. And usually it only glitches in minor ways, like you'll get some screen clipping or lag
Or like the eyes will like twitch in the.
yeah, the eyes won't be in the right place, or like it'll hold on a loading screen or play a conversation wheel twice or something. That's not that bad. But some people have run into some like unforgivably screwed up things. Like there's a pole dancing part in The Wolf Among Us where you're in the strip club. And there have been errors with the PC version where Big B's model gets thrown in place of the strippers. So you're watching like the main character grinding on like, man, guys, like how does that even happen?
That's not clever.
Yeah, they definitely need a new engine. I imagine it's coming because they built the entire last run of games in the same one that's running now. Even Game of Thrones and Borderlands are.
For last gen.
Yeah, it's the one that they've used for The Walking Dead. So my theory is that we will see the new one whenever they start.
Yeah,
their new
I have a
IP.
coworker who's a big fan of the Telltale games, and I know that he is actually waiting to buy a PS4 for two things. He wants more of the Game of Thrones Telltale games, and he wants the new Batman Arkham Knight.
He's waiting for Arkham Knight.
Yeah, he's waiting for Arkham Knight. He's also got kids, and they just want to play the Lego games at this point, so... I mean, you can play those on PS3 still.
You can.
Yeah. Which Lego games are always a ton of fun.
They are. Those are worth the money every fucking time.
Yeah.
They're hilarious. They're really fun. And if you're nerdy about the subject matter in the games, they usually have an unbelievable amount of depth.
Yep.
The DC games they put out let you play as like every minor, forgotten, tiny DC character ever produced.
I always end up I think that they're meant to be party games. They're meant to be played with other people because it doesn't really do it for me to play those solo. And yet whenever I play those
Lego
games
or
Lego
okay.
games. But whenever I play those with people, it's always that one dude who's like, "Hey, let me get this little toggle thingy over in the other corner. It'll just take a minute." And that's my entire gaming experience with them. Just dude, can't you just come back solo and get it? Oh, it'll just take a second.
No, it's no good.
It makes me think of Lego Island,
Lego Island?
You never played Lego Island? It was one of the first Lego video games back in the 90s. There's some like pizza bandit or something like that on this. You're on a tropical island and you're a pizza delivery guy, and you're just you're being like chased around by a pizza bandit. It was a fucking awesome game.
Did you ever play the original Lego Racer on the PS1?
No.
I don't think so.
Oh, that was
no.
a quality game. You built your own cars and then raced them on all these crappily
that'd be
designed
fun.
circuits.
Of course, it was crappily designed.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, that was like the beginning of everything needs a kart racer. Was PlayStation.
Yes.
Oh god.
Dude,
Oh man, that Mario
Crash
Kart's
Team
doing
Racing.
good. Yeah, the Crash Team Racing,
So good.
Chocobo Racing.
007 racing.
Like why? Why guys? Don't do it.
How many cars are there? There's only one. Aston Martin Vanquish.
It's the one that matters.
Didn't they switch over to the Porsche for James Bond at one point?
No,
No.
That would have been a huge mistake.
that'd been real bad.
Well, they went to a different car other than the Aston Martin at one point.
They've
Not
done
for
a few
his car.
different Aston
Yeah, they've picked a bunch
Martins.
of different Astons,
Yeah.
which is actually usually a source of debate anyway, because they get mad if like there's any foreign build products in them. But
Yeah.
I think if James Bond came out driving a Porsche, that'd be pretty much the fucking end of everyone's lives at MGM.
Yeah, so the British super spy, what's he driving? A German car?
The British actually declare war on MGM.
That'd be the end of it. Plus, I don't imagine that would be well received in Germany, to be totally honest.
Oh, so the guy who hunts all the Germans.
Yeah, there's this great hero where we're constantly villainized. Like every German person in a James Bond movie is a miserly, crazy person.
Well, yeah, but you guys, can't you see it? We've got ourselves a new pitch here. You know, Daniel Craig says goodbye to the female interest, gives her a kiss, hops into his Lamborghini, winks at her, and says, "Ciao."
Yeah, that's uncomfortable.
And he rides off into the sunset with his car.
Through, you know, twisting, winding mountain roads,
Yes.
showing off the incredible suspension.
So I think it would be fair to say Mike has survived this winter by Crucible alone.
Yeah, but mostly just Crucible. I just got my Titan up to a 1.4 KD lifetime, which I was pretty stoked about.
There you go.
I was working on hitting that for a while.
good.
Yeah, it's not bad. And I've been killing a lot of people and making people waste rockets in my bubble. That's really fun, as you just...
Yeah.
as we watch.
That's the infinite bug zapper that is the bubble.
It's kind of amazing. I don't know why people run into the bubble,
Yeah.
but they do feed me kills.
If you guys are out there and you're playing Destiny and you're not a Titan as main, can you explain what happens when you see the bubble? Because I've often wondered this as somebody who doesn't charge the bubble.
So bright.
yeah, like
I want to go in.
Is it that like idea that you just want to knock Atlas down? Like you're like, if I kill him in his own bubble, the shame. But like, it's not gonna work. Like,
Yeah, no,
It's hubris.
Well, no,
It's pure hubris. If
The other
I
day-
can kill that guy.
I was standing in my bubble. I was capping a zone, and there were two enemy players, and they were just standing outside the bubble looking at me. And then I watched one of them drop into blade dance stance, and I took one step back, and I took out Found Verdict, and they fell at my feet. They ran right into the bubble and immediately died. And then I pointed at their friend, and then waved at him, and then stepped out the bubble, hit him with a sticky grenade, walked back in my bubble, and danced. And I wonder what goes through these people's minds, because I always just leave the zone. I go,
Yeah.
well, there's a bubble there, I'm leaving now.
Yeah.
I'm
away.
going to go do something else, unless I have my own bubble, and then I double bubble brawl.
yeah. Well, and it's
That's
like
the best.
It's just bad math on the side of the person attacking
Right.
it. Like, if I win, they'll only get the capture points. It's like, yeah, but when you lose, think of how many more points they're getting.
It's amazing.
I don't think it's so much like a bug zapper thing. I think it's more like an animal racing across the road. Like you'll see that, and it'll be
They think they can make it.
you see the oncoming car, and so you run.
Oh no!
And however, here's the thing though, is that somebody who does have a few Titan bubble kills under my belt, there's always that thing where it's like, is this the time? You're always wondering, because when you get it, when
Hubris.
you
Hubris.
you have trouble walking because you feel like you fit in your breeches all wrong. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Now, the thing is that to actually pull off a Titan bubble kill, it's really, you just have to be a wizard with your timing. Because if you screw up your timing, you're going to get your face punched into the back of your skull just every single time. But
I mean, the only way to really win that timing game is if, you have 4 people and you all step in as a team and all hit them at once and then run out just in case.
Or
Well, as a chance, I feel like I've overtold the story a little bit, but we had the Titan bubble duel, and Mike popped open his bubble, and on came Mr. Titan. I think Mike was expecting a good old punching match, and this guy popped open a bubble, being like, okay, let's have ourselves a little, double bubble trouble. The thing was, though, is that the guy couldn't have been aware of the fact that I was hiding behind the barrels right next to him with a full super bar ready to go. So what I had to do was wait for him to throw that first punch at Michael and dance in and chase him a little bit. And still, it was like I had to hit the super just as the guy hit Mike, so that as he's re-chambering back, I could get in and just cut him up to pieces. And the thing was that he had about 3 people rushing behind him to get into the bubble, and I said hello to them too.
See, I came up with this yesterday, that when Michael is in Defender spec, he's Michael Bublé.
Michael Bublé, yeah.
If you do ever say that again, though, I'm just going to let you know right now, on air, I'm going to come into your apartment, nail your feet to the floor, and burn the entire building around you.
Whoa, that is way more extreme than what you threatened to do yesterday.
So you just raised the stakes.
You said you were going to come into my apartment and poop in my toilet.
No. I said I was going to clog your toilet intentionally.
Wow, that's also mean.
Should go for the double
Funny
decker.
story about nailing things feet to the floor.
What?
You learn a lot of strange arcana when you're in art school, but one of the stories that always stuck with me was we were studying Norman Rockwell for whatever reason, and he always painted all those animals and things like that. He nailed ducks to the floor to draw them.
Oh, God.
Terrible man.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that happened.
He's a national treasure.
He is, actually. I still love his art, but Jesus. So, Mike, you've been playing around with the new sandbox they patched in.
Yes.
They did the buffs to pulse rifles and then the changes to ARs. Is this affecting your dedication to Crucible?
No.
No.
Well, all right.
No.
So first of all,
No.
the shotgun nerf, whatever they want to call it, I don't know if it's there.
Yeah.
I haven't felt it on a single match.
Yeah. But you have felt it dungeon side in the PvE.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just rip things apart with shotguns now. They're horrendous, grinding, killing machines.
Yeah.
You might as well just be putting a chainsaw into people's faces. It's really mean.
3 seconds of fun, man.
I will say Hawkmoon feels a bit nerfed, which is fair.
Yeah.
Thorn's not as bad because it has the DOT, so even if you get a body shot instead of a headshot, you're still probably going to kill them.
What is it? It's initial recoil, overall range, and overall impact they nerfed on
Well, the
hand
effective
cannons?
range drop-off's higher.
The
basically.
damage
Okay,
point's still the same.
Okay, but the effective, the range drop off of damage.
I'm still
is-
getting, I think it's 84 per headshot plus the 7 damage per tick on Thorn.
Which is 100% fair. I mean, that
Yeah.
one night I was playing with you guys, I was just using improved weapons of light with Hawkmoon and getting 2-shot kills on literally everyone at
Yeah.
any range.
Yeah.
So that needed to happen.
Yeah. When I've been playing a lot around with weapons of light in my LDR and one-shotting people with a sniper rifle just right in the body, in the toes even, the hand, wherever it is the bullet falls and then they just die magically. That's great. It's a
Wait,
lot
what
of
did
fun.
was that part of a buff that they
No,
did?
it's just always been around.
Oh,
I just
okay.
never realized you could do it until very recently. And since Combined His Arms is up
We're
this
still-
weekend,
you're a young
it's
Titan.
Pretty great. It's true, yeah.
Yeah,
you were
you
very
were, yeah.
addicted to the bubble, come into my bubble and murder me. Now you've realized
Okay.
you can go out of the bubble and murder too.
Yeah.
Real quick though, with the bubble, you guys are talking about all this, oh, it's a pie. Whoa, just drop a Nova bomb on the bubble, walk away. You probably killed all the people inside of it at the same time.
Well, if
with
you have
armor of light.
armor of light on, it actually doesn't do that much damage. So what it is I wait for the fire and I get to the back of the bubble, and as soon as it hits, it drops a bubble but shields me from the damage. Then I jump out of the blast, and then I kill them anyways
Yep.
and make them waste their super.
Plus,
but that's
if
if they have armor. If you have armor of light on.
Yeah.
and if
but I
their best
almost always
option
do.
is Nova Bomb you in your bubble, okay, you traded supers with me.
Yeah.
Mine will be back twice before your Nova Bomb's back once.
No,
I mean, it gets rid of the Nova bomb problem,
Yeah, like
and
GG.
it usually kills the people besides the Titan in the bubble.
Yeah, I actually had one dude yesterday who was Sunsinger, ran into the bubble, died, popped Radiance,
Oh, what an asshole!
and then died in the bubble again.
Yeah. I've noticed when I'm not playing with you guys, there's usually no one in my bubble with me, though. I always think, I'm
Nobody
going to lead
get
the
it.
charge, and then I get up there, I'm like, I'm just going to cap it alone like
I
a
only
dick.
ever put Blessing of Light on when I'm with my friends. Otherwise, it's Armor of Light all the time, because fuck the rest of my team. They
Yeah.
don't help me anymore.
So
Really?
here's my second question for your Crucible addiction this winter. I gave up. Like, you guys watched me basically just be like, and Destiny is done until the next content, because I have nothing left. I started in on Evolve, and when my hand wasn't shitty, that was all I could play. I was, like, horrifically addicted to being the monster in that game, and just having too much fun with that game. What has kept its claws in you about the Crucible? Why are you still, like, so into it?
To be honest, it has been waning the past, like, few days, because I'm kind of sick of being too good. Like earlier,
No,
you guys.
that's a really fair point.
You guys are over and you're watching, and I was like dicking around. Even in my worst match, like I didn't score that well, but I still pulled a 1.64 and got objectively correct. It's like, I don't get below 1.0s anymore.
But wait, it must be pushing you up the ladder so that you're playing ever better
That's
characters.
what I mean, though. Like, there's no matchmaking in the game, or at least
no
laddered.
real match.
Yeah, there's no laddered matchmaking anymore, or at all.
I
Sorry,
believe
not
in
anymore.
MMR and Destiny in the same way I believe in the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
2 great humps and then it's gone.
Wow.
That was pretty good. That was.
I can't.
You know what?
I can't take
Everybody-
that. It's a line from Nick Cave in the song "Worm Tamer." It's my baby calls me the Loch Ness Monster. 2 great big humps and then I'm gone.
Oh wow.
Oh my God.
It's a good time.
Anyway, yeah, it's a fucking awesome
that's
song.
it's a
Anyway,
good time. But I really
Well-
fundamentally I still love the gameplay.
yeah.
And I'll go on and I'll play 3 matches and just blow people away and get like 3.0s and stuff. But then suddenly, by catching lightning in the bottle, I actually end up in a good lobby full of 6v6 very skilled players.
Yeah.
And there's a tight match and you're running around and you're just trading, A and C over and over again, trying to chew box the other team. And everyone's playing really smart and like everyone's making their shotgun slides and really pushing for those heavy ammo spawns and using good team tactics. And then it goes back to like 3 more rounds of everyone feeding me kills.
Yeah.
But
See, that's my biggest problem is that there's no ladder, because that game would be so much more fun, and doing Crucible would be so much more fun if you're in evenly matched lobbies.
yeah, it would be great.
Well, and that was the thing is, with Evolve, I got really addicted again to being in a competitive ladder, because after I hit about 30th meta level in that, I was up in the top 600 USA, top 1,000 globally for Wraith, and the matches were always close. Like, I was still winning a lot because I was learning a lot every match, still being able to progress, still not to my pit or out point in the ladder, where it was a completely even match. But they were getting so much closer, and I was seeing such a variation in the matches and how many of the abilities I had to utilize well and what the hunters were doing to try and bring me down, that every match just was getting, like, harder and harder to take. Like, it was just, like, so stressful to play in them, and I loved it. It was getting so much more competitive and so much better.
Well, you were drawn. Your focus was drawn into what you were doing, whereas, like what Michael was saying, is you were just dicking around and you were getting above 1.0 or 1.5
easily. Oh yeah,
and
all the
without
time.
even trying. And that's not fun anymore. I mean, sometimes it's fun. I like playing with like 4 or 5 of my friends. We jump into Crucible and it's pretty much just hanging out while playing PvP. Like it's not. I remember a few months ago when we were playing Iron Banner, before The Dark Below came out. We were here and we were playing, and it was like hyper focused on playing PvP because it felt like a hard thing to be doing.
Iron Banner did bring out the hardcores, though. There was a very good turnout this Iron Banner tournament.
I guess
They were definitely much better than the normal, like, cut of the jib for Crucible players.
Absolutely, but even then, I was in there getting above 1.5 every game, which is actually pretty rare for me. I'm not a very good Crucible player. I mean, I have my moments and I have my good games and bad games, but I was consistently doing well, which I guess I have to be self-deprecative and say that I don't think that it was because we were playing against harder people.
You also did most of your play on the Saturday, which was easier. Time makes it.
I feel like Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the hardest days.
Oh no, they're way easier.
way easier.
My normal play time for Crucible is either daytime or late night on the weekdays, and that's when the more hardcore players are out, because those are the losers who don't have real lives and 9 to 5s and don't play at like 6 to 8 p.m. at night on like a Friday.
So they don't play dad time.
They don't play dad time.
Everybody
I don't play
who
against
doesn't have
dads.
time to get good at a game plays on the weekends. So that is when you have the
Fair enough.
easier matches, like hands down.
I mean, I have a job.
Right, you have a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Like a civilized human being. I'm not a
I
civilized
don't know if
human
it's
being.
civilized. It's capitalistic.
Sure.
God.
8, 8, and 8, whatever.
Oh yeah, and also, you know who else you run into more during the daytime and late at night are people who still do that teabag, like, dance on you kind of thing, where it's that whole sort of, I'm serious. And it's,
I have never been teabagged in the Crucible.
Really?
Hands
well,
down.
lucky
Absolutely.
fucking you. It
Oh
sucks.
my god!
I
Yeah.
guess no one wants to grief you.
I guess.
I get bagged. I give bag. That's just
I
the way it
don't-
goes.
I don't bag, but if I do kill someone who has teabagged me, I might dance in their face. Just a little bit.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. There's a much more hardcore variety of person playing in the off hours.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things where you sit down, and one of the phrases I'm definitely trying to get away from is, because I think it excuses me away from practicing or things like that, is that whole, like, they're not that good. And you get mad at these people because they know the maps, and you're like, oh, come on, But you sit there and think to yourself, well, they are much better at it. But at the same time, it's sort of, hey, James, you could sit down and learn every single sniper spot on this. You could learn the timing from all the different spawns. You could sit there and figure out a perfect circuit to just reap up kills. Or maybe you could go outside and take a walk.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to their investment in it, because the more you play the game, you are going to be able to ramp that skill up. But there's a million other limitations that just get into it right off the bat that you don't get to see without a competitive ladder. Like, I have a reaction time and an acuity with playing shooters now, just from playing Call of Duty for years, playing Counter-Strike, playing Destiny and Halo and all these other games. I know when I'm playing somebody who's better or worse than me really, really quickly in a match. And you know when you're getting greased because they're beating you on map knowledge or they're beating you on tactics, and you know when you're getting greased on reaction time. And eventually with Destiny, none of that mattered anymore, because you're never playing anybody who has the advantage on you in that, in the rare moments when you are, were so few and far between.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm looking forward so much to Rainbow Six Siege, because I'm looking for a very in-depth...
oh, and they're super laddered.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But a very in-depth competitive shooter. I mean, I do enjoy Evolve. Maybe it's because I didn't get as much into playing the monsters, that I was just kind of trapped into playing the few shooter characters, and but I didn't get bit as hard by that bug.
Well,
Although
and
it's still
pugging the
fun.
low levels as a hunter is just miserable.
Yeah.
Like, until you have a meta level
Yeah.
in that game above 20, your pickup groups in it are just going to make you want to murder yourself over and
they
over
did.
again.
Oh, and to do my one little stomp, though, on Evolve, definitely has to do with their quote-unquote lore, that you're on these planets that are being commercially developed, and they run into these strange creatures that they dubbed monsters. And it's like, guys,
Well,
really?
they really
did you get
couldn't-
to, print date, and somebody was like, oh god, we completely forgot to give this thing a fucking story.
They probably forgot that, megafauna is a complicated word to say, so monster sounds
Well,
better.
but it is kind of, I have noticed that it's weird just in the scripting. Like, I don't personally have a problem that they call all three of the monsters, just because they have individual names that they acknowledge, like, oh, it's a wraith, oh, it's a Goliath, whatever. But the thing that makes it weird is when they're like, you gotta help us, friend. The base is under attack by one of them monsters. And then you get down there and they're like, no, not the 15-foot giant sloth. No, not the hordes of acid-spewing dogs. No, not the striders with the lightning that come out of their mouths. The monster. It's like, wait a minute, bro. All of those things sound horrible. So what is the one thing here that was giving you trouble?
I mean, I can't dish on it too hard. I mean, come on, it's video games. We've talked about
It
that.
also has 100 times better story than Destiny.
It does.
It has a story.
Did those gentlemen at BioWare produce those 101 inconsistencies into their plot points?
Yeah, I don't know what blog that's on, but yeah, it was two guys from BioWare who got mad about something that was said about them by the Bungie devs, wrote 101 plot inconsistencies in the Grimoire cards in Destiny. And they're pretty cutting and brutal. Like, I mean, it was two people who went in there with a whole lot of cynicism and were like, hey, this makes no fucking sense.
This is
BioWare
directly
is
contradicted
amazing at
everywhere.
story writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
they're
even like
kings.
their plots everybody's story will have holes when it
Oh,
gets
yeah.
that involved. And it wasn't a very nice thing to do, but it was pretty illustrative of, $250 million might not have been spent on a lot for your game. Here's one place it wasn't spent.
I guess we were talking about. I'd like to go back to Evolve, but I just want to say my one piece on Destiny and of the sort of evening out of things is I feel like everything was made too equal in that game. I think I personally feel like there's this invisible cap on you can be an amazing player, but it's almost feels a lot of it almost feels cartoonish at a point where like everything is so evenly played out or evenly balanced in the game that I feel like there's not a whole lot of places to exploit.
Well, I would disagree with that because I think once you start getting really good and you realize how small tweaks in your build can, get you 1 kill for this, 2 more kills a match for that, 3 more kills a match for that. Once you get into that really fine tweaking and you realize how you can exploit your stats to really rip someone apart. Like, I'm running a build right now that's just fully run down in barrier melee. And my trick is I'll get in a firefight when I'm overwhelmed. I also have maxed recovery, so I'll back around a corner. Somebody comes around to finish me off, and all it is shotgun melee. My barrier is up, and then I can easily take the other 2 guys.
Yeah.
Because I have the advantage to press.
I think the other thing is it's a result of there being no MMR. Because your time to kill is meaningless if you're playing against somebody who's had the game for 3 months and you've been playing it since launch.
Yeah.
Because you will beat them. Whether it's 9 seconds or 4, you're going to win the fight because you're not going to miss as often. The weapons you're using, you know better. Like, there's just so many X factors that go into not playing against people who are on your level that the investment into how carefully refined the system is doesn't pay off.
Well, I think that on a larger scale, the small build tweaks don't factor in all that much. It sort of just affects your gameplay style, not necessarily any in-game. I mean, I just don't think that there's a whole lot.
I think they absolutely do. Like when you.
Well, I just don't think it's like a world-changing difference when you change your.
But I mean, okay, so think about it this way: Word of Dawn. You can get its cooldown if you have all the max spec for cooldown and you have all the max intellect. You actually end up shaving something like 1.5 minutes total off of your cooldown, just base.
Yeah,
so you realize
you're
that
also
in
talking about
12
gear
minutes,
spec too, right?
part of that's gear spec, yeah. But I mean, I play with different pieces of gear. Like I have multiple armor pieces that I swap out just to rebalance my intellect, strength, and discipline in the Crucible. But so if you look at it, you can get yourself an extra, 4 or 5 Wards of Dawn in the Crucible just by the way that you build yourself.
Well, plus, the 2 ways that I've been playing my Titan when I was still playing was swapping between the Armamentarium and Glass House, because it's 2 completely alien playstyles for my Titan.
Right.
With 2 Magrens, you're playing a very offensive style, short to mid. You're constantly wanting to set up the sticks and then get around cover. You're fighting on corners and you're fighting in close. And you're avoiding long-range engagements unless you have to get involved in them. And you're probably point capping. If you're playing with Glass House, you're playing a defensive game, you're using choke points, you're extending the game out so you can use the things that Weapons Light help you with, like sniper rifles and high-caliber weapons. So then you're playing the long game, and that's just on which exotic I'm using.
Right.
And I think the depth would matter if there were any payoff. The problem is I can go pugging and get a 4-0 KD ratio with either of those setups, and it's not because I'm amazing at Destiny, it's because the odds that I play anybody else who are around my skill level are so infinitesimal, it won't happen.
I went in the other day, and it was because right now I'm still leveling my striker spec, and I played my first striker game, pulled a 2.5. I'd never even played that spec before in my life, but it wasn't so much that I was really good at it. I'm just a good Destiny player.
Right. That's what I mean is that you can, if you're a good FPS player, you can go through an entire Crucible game, not use any of your actual abilities, and still get a really good score.
Yeah.
That's what I mean is that I feel like a lot of the specs are kind of flashy showpieces that aren't.
But I don't think it's the builds that are the problem.
Right.
I think it's the lack of MMR.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think the builds would be
you
very
don't
competitive
need to
and
use-
significant if there were a
Right.
reason to use them.
Right. No, and I think that they're fun little quirks in some ways when there's no MMR, because I never feel pressured to use my golden gun. Or when I play Defender, I don't ever feel pressured to use my bubble in the Crucible. It's just sort of like oh yeah, this might be good right now. I want something where, you're just flying through the game going, oh shit, where do I go now? What do I do now? What do I do now? And
That's strange, because when I was rocking Golden Gun, I've made a switch back over to Blade Dancer for a little while. But I always feel pressure to use my Golden Gun, because the sooner you get your super off, the sooner you can start building for the next one. And it's one of those things that it's like, when you don't have a good opportunity, if you don't have a good firefight to drop your super on, and you come across a couple of orbs, you're sitting there going,
Not
I
to
guess,
mention,
but
James and I get into some really gnarly orb kata when we were into the Crucible, because I'll be just because we both have such super fast charging supers. We have Word of Dawn and Golden Gun, so we're just constantly chaining orbs back off one another to get a horrendous amount of kills.
yeah.
I mean, if you get 1 kill per super and your team uses them on CD, you'll win the match. because the exchange on KDR that your team gets and the amount of points it accumulates is so huge. Anytime, like as my only piece of advice to anybody playing Crucible in Destiny is use your super on cooldown.
Yeah.
Find the very first opportunity where you can use it beneficially, because having 2 bubbles in okay places will net you more points than saving it for that one perfect time that maybe you get the extra kills.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Get the one quick kill, charge again, and get
That's
another
what I'm
one.
saying is that
And if you're constantly, but if you're constantly planning for that perfect moment to use your super, you're never going to use it. Or either that, or you'll be like, there are 3 guys around that corner, and I will be infused with the light, and I will glow, and my gun will burn, and it will be golden gun. And somebody comes around and goes, hey, this is a shotgun, kablang.
Right, I know, but that would happen either time, a lot of the time. What I mean is that I could get through a game and still have a really good KD ratio with just using Vex Mythoclast. Which might as well be the golden gun in the first place.
You do have a point.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is that I do more. I'm
But I think all of that is
as
100% a symptom of there being no ladder.
exactly.
It's because you don't have players who can topple them.
I think they're very carefully balancing their game around their players who are very good. Bungie's in-house players are not bad. Deej obviously is terrible, but
I watched a video of him getting rolled.
but he even admits that. He's not like going around being like, I'm pro at this game. Like, no, he plays with his friends. He's a regular player in the game. But their in-house guys who test for balance play to a very extreme level, and they play against each other a lot, which means they know the ins and outs of each other. Those are very competitive matches, and I think they're doing a great job of balancing the arms in the game. There's just a point.
Yeah.
And I think the major esports tournaments backing away from Bungie and picking up a game so quickly like Evolve is
Did we talk about this last week?
I don't know if we did.
not.
LCS does not seem interested anymore in their communications with Bungie and maintaining any contact with them about bringing Destiny to the competitive level, which is no shock to anybody who's been following it.
Well, there is a tournament finally being set up for Control. They just released some of the details, and it is going to be on PS4.
Okay, so...
But it's not like... I think it's an invitational tournament. There's no cash prize from what I heard.
But, like, what structure are they going to use for it? If no outside databasing was set up, they're not doing it internally, they really have nothing. Like, how do you determine who the pros are?
This guy's good at the game. You should let him play.
Yeah, actually, here's the other
I think
thing,
it's still
too.
a bunch of Call of Duty players playing Destiny.
Right, well, and that's totally, like, random. Like, LCS at PAX announced impromptu at PAX East this week. They're going to be holding the first, quote-unquote, pro tournament of Evolve. And it is an invitational game with some players coming over from other games that they brought in just to attract popularity to it because, hey, you know Snowden from Counter-Strike, he's playing this. But then they also can look at the ladder and be like, hey, find the top 6 Kraken players in the US. Ask them to come. Like, they can do that, and they can get those guys in there, and you can actually watch those people who are that good play. And LCS didn't have to invent a system to do it. They didn't have to go to a like DB database to figure out who's the best third party. That was all built there. Those matches have spectating for the shoutcasters. Those matches have everything.
Here's the thing that's horrifying to think about for a Destiny tournament. There's no matchmaking in Destiny.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe you could get people set up in together in fire teams, but there's no guarantee that you'd get the fire teams playing against each other. So the whole point of the tournament would to be get a whole bunch of people in the room together to play other people online and see who does the best against those people out there somewhere. So it's like, congratulations, there is no reason for you to all show up for this tournament. May your hands be steady and your aim be true.
Well,
Wank, wank, wank,
Wouldn't
wank.
the worst scenario be too? They show up and Bungie's like, okay, you're all match made together, and then never implements it in the game.
Yeah.
Like they're like, hey, here's that mechanic we said was so hard to build. You
So
can't
you're
have
gonna
it.
put this in the game, right?
Which would be pretty...
Why are you just showing me your middle finger?
Yeah, that's
Why aren't you saying anything?
yeah.
No, see, Andrew, that's static. You got to do the wind up middle finger. Then it's a mechanic because it's dynamic.
Well, and I think like this is a bigger problem for them than I think Bungie really wants to admit because they're like, oh, everybody will keep coming back for the raids. I'm not convinced.
No,
I mean,
they're not.
At Crota's End, I'm not even 32. I have literally every weapon you can get from it on hard mode and easy. I'm just missing a helm or a chest piece. I don't fucking care anymore.
Oh yeah, I stopped raiding Crota straight up.
Like-
I all I need is a chess piece on 2 different characters. Whoever drops it first, I can just.
Well,
run
and the
my
cynicism in me
defense
too. I
and
was
that's
like, when House of Wolves drops, I won't be refused a spot because when I go to join that group, I can just say have Gala Max.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bam.
Like fuck it, and I don't.
31
I don't know.
Gallahorn looking for group.
I think
I
that's
wanna
what's sort of
do
killing it for
something
me
good.
is I'm losing a whole lot of faith. The other thing that just shattered my ability to back Bungie and what they're doing with the game is that kid who got fucked on SharePlay.
Yes.
And them being like, we have no system in place to recover his character. Sorry, there's nothing we're going to do about it. Also, we're not going to...
Kidding me?
They're not going to do anything...
So kid got beefed out of his character, and they can't do anything about
Yeah,
it.
they said there's mechanically no way to possibly recover the data or show what he had.
Right,
my
and
God.
Destiny DB, the website that catalogs everything in the universe, is like, hey, here's his loadout. Here's his loadout from last week. Here's his loadout from a month ago. You want it?
So then they were like, well, there's no way for us to add it into the game even if we wanted to. Except we've already done that for a couple of charity cases, and we do it for internal testing, and it doesn't make any sense because it's an imaginary thing that we built, and we could change anytime we wanted to. Like, for that big a customer service issue, like, even if they were like, we're not going to establish a precedent, okay, but this kid got publicly fucked on the internet, and 10 million people are upset about it, and you're like, nah.
So what? There's like a what's the term for it? A muggle? No, not a muggle.
What?
A muggle. No, magic folk.
He ain't no wizard.
No,
got any
that
mud
D&D term for the person who gets really obsessed with the rules.
The munchkin.
Munchkin, right.
yeah.
So there's probably a munchkin over there at Bungie somewhere going, it's against the rules!
Yeah, no, I think, honestly, their fear about it is that they think it will establish some kind of precedent that they'll actually have to build a character recovery mechanic, and somebody knows that costs money. The problem is, we were all, I think, as a community of Destiny players, shocked that that technology does not exist.
And a little worried that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, like, I mean, I can straight up tell you, if my account gets hacked and I lose all those characters, I won't go back.
Yeah.
That'll be the end of it for me, because I'm not going to want to have to build back up through it to see the new content. It's just not worth the investment.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
And
No, I'm the same way.
as
I
a
love
WoW
that game, but
player,
I wouldn't do it.
and this is too, as a WoW player who permanently lost an account. My account from beta until the end of Lich King was destroyed. I could not recover it. I lost like Thordal the Stars tiers and all these other like amazing things I had earned and all of the achievements and everything. I came back. It sucked, but I came back and I played back through the content. I enjoyed continuing to play the game. It was worth the time investment. That's never going to happen with Destiny.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. And another thing that really infuriates me is that they are developing so much for it, but not these basic things. Like, they're adding 2 new modes very shortly to the rotation for Crucible.
Oh, Inferno.
They're adding, the 2 Inferno modes, Skirmish and
So
Can we just
Rumble,
play all the modes,
which is just.
please?
But the thing is, it's just so dumb because first of all, it's a mode that doesn't matter because it only artificially increases the difficulty or the perception of skill because all it does is removes your radar. Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all,
Wow.
using the radar is a skill.
Radar's the only thing that counts, and kills are the only things that count.
Yeah. So you can't get assists.
Yeah.
So
You don't get assist points. You don't
crossfire.
get.
from the
Brand new, even less content.
right, like from the FPS player in me, I'm going to lay this out here, and if the internet feels different, feel free to scream. I'm not listening. If you play hardcore mode in Call of Duty, what you're actually admitting is you fucking suck at that game. Because you're playing in a mode where ambushing is now the alpha dog way to get kills, right? You hide somewhere and you kill somebody when they happen to come by. You could say that, oh, I know where to be in the map and that's like an acquired skill. Like, go fuck yourself. You don't have the reaction time or the situational awareness to play a dynamic game where you can see where people are moving and have to choose when you're going to attack. So instead you play a mode where you hide and pad your KDR by being difficult to find and opportunistic. That's not fun.
Yeah.
Even when you're winning
it
that
doesn't
way,
make you a good
it's
player.
not fun. No, and it makes you a terrible player.
Yeah.
If you get used to playing in a hardcore mode in COD and go back to playing any other competitive
your
mode,
TTK is going to be bullshit.
right, and you won't even help your team because you don't know how to play objectively, you don't know how to move through the maps, you never had to play the game in a dynamic mode. You're terrible. Like, just awful. It's the same reason, like, people who come into Counter-Strike who feed don't understand the immense terribleness they're causing because they're like, oh, I got like 3 kills and then I died, and yeah, my team's like totally helped out now because I got those. It's like, well, yeah, except you gave away your team's position when you moved and you started firing. You did get those 2 aggressive ambushes that you think are going to help, but you've just made the whole game buy the farm for your side because on an intelligence war they've now won. They will dig in, they will ambush, they will cut you off, and they will kill your team one by one, and the game's up.
Yeah.
And it's like, building more modes into the game that encourage that are terrible. Like, Clash is already a waste of time because all it is camping and padding KDR. To then go the next level and be like, yeah, we're going to remove radar and only kills count. There's no reason to assist one another. Why don't they just make a mode that's called you only win if you get Lone Wolf? Like,
Seriously, why don't they just bring 1v1s back from good old Halo 2 and 3?
That would
They
actually
might
be
as well.
fun.
Yeah,
I don't know
one-
if I'd really play it, but
I would test it out. And I think we should probably, I mean, we could just say what we say every time we talk about this. Fucking give us capture the flag.
yeah, I don't know why
seriously.
CTF isn't in this game. I
It's
don't know what happened.
it
there.
would involve a lot of team play. You have to work with your team to do capture the flag. Even if your team is just thrown to the meat grinder while one guy runs the flag.
Well,
I
and-
think angrily talking about this makes me think I really do need to just pick up another first-person shooter.
Yeah,
I
well-
need to go like get an Unreal game or probably a Counter-Strike. Again.
yeah, that's the thing is like I don't know why anybody who wants to play more arena shooters and just go buy Advanced Warfare. It was the best FPS that came out last year. It's amazing. Like, don't even worry about it. But one thing I noticed with Evolve that I know has pissed off a lot of people who came into Evolve is they thought it was a shooter.
No.
It's not. It's a MOBA.
Yeah.
And I think Bungie is looking at the development of some of these games and maybe hedging their bets saying, our market is the Halo shooter, right? We're trying to get the kids who play the bro shooter because that's where the money is. That's where the most players are. They're going to want to play this. But they put the toothpaste out of the tube by including all of these team play elements with the supers and the
raids and-
the game mode designs and all the PvE content and everything. And so everybody now plays this game with a group of friends. And they don't know how to build a team multiplayer environment for PvP. They just don't.
No.
And they keep moving further away from it, and it's shitty and dumb, and I don't think it's going to last. for
We'll
them.
take half of them, we'll put them on one side, and we'll take the other half, we'll put them on the other side,
And-
and they'll death match. Son, you're a genius.
Dude, and it's further infuriating because the maps are all designed so well.
Right. Well, and that's
man.
the thing
Like,
that sucks is the
great
sandbox is
first-person
perfect,
shooter.
and they're not
Yeah.
fucking with it really at all. And it's like, yeah, but you won't just take it to the last phase and like actually put the modes in we want and
Well,
matchmaking.
yeah. So I've actually not played any, except for last night. It was the first time I've jumped on and played any video games all week.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing some Dragon Age still too because I still have another 100 hours I could pump into that game. and
Shout
still
out
find
to
it enjoyable.
Lisa Heberzettel, who bought her PlayStation 4 this week. She fell into the Dragon Age well.
No, it's great.
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
I'm
I've been
40,
putting in my time in with that
maybe
as
50
well.
hours in. Yeah,
Being
Dan's been playing
all
a lot.
warriored out, tankalicious, sword and board. It's a good time.
Tankalicious.
You should see his character. Seriously, he looks like Bronson.
You guys, you're on the
Looks
clock
like
now,
Tom
though.
Hardy.
You're going to be finishing that Dragon Age before The Witcher.
That's
Yeah.
true. You are right.
There is not a gulf of months between you and its release anymore. Now it's a smaller
You
and
know, and
smaller
I've been sitting
window,
around
man.
doing everything, finding every. Oh, you need some herbs for some medicine.
Yeah.
Here you go.
I do that at the same time. I'm like, da, da, da. I'm like, wow, I spent a lot of time in the hinterlands.
I know.
And then I go back to the Haven or whatever.
Yeah.
I go back there and they're like, where have you been? We needed you to go do all this. And then I was like, oh wait, I can leave and go to different zones. Huh, weird.
Yeah, no, there's no way I'm getting completion of that game in under 100 hours. I'm taking it at a doddering pace and
I think
having fun with it.
I finished at 72, but I hit a tipping point where I was like, I know what I've done with my file. I know I'm going to have to play through it again for the platinum. Now I know I have to play through it twice again for the platinum. And I was like, all right, I'm going to finish the story and move on without doing any of the stuff. But like to reach that point at 72 hours in and be like, yeah, there's a lot more to do. I guess I'll see the ending. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's a big game.
No, I like that. Well, I haven't played much video games, but I've been reading quite a bit the last couple of weeks. And actually,
Analog. sorry. You know,
read comic books on your phone.
Yeah, that's digital.
digital.
There's a pile of comic books behind you.
Yeah, James, there's more books in this room than there are like anything else.
Yeah, don't get on
We
me
live
about
sophisticated
analog.
I just wanted to give you some shit.
I know.
What have you been reading?
I read this great book by Peter Clines called X Heroes. It's a part of a 4-part series. He may still be writing more novels in the series, but basically the premise is kind of part zombie apocalypse, part superhero novel. Basically, superheroes started to come up around 3 or 4 years before zombie apocalypse. Zombie apocalypse occurs. Superheroes take over Paramount Studios in Los Angeles, turn it into a fortified fort where they bring thousands of the leftover humans and just try to rebuild society from there.
Wow.
But there are zombified superheroes out there as well.
Oh, doctor.
It's a very interesting story. All of the superheroes are actually really interesting. I liked the writing quite a bit. It's kind of this weird in between of adult fiction and young adult fiction. maybe it's just because of the superheroes, but there's a lot of swearing, a lot of vulgarity. So
Nice.
I think it's a adult fiction book that if you want to read something less serious and more fun and raunchy, you can read.
Yeah, that's a good time. You gotta love a book like that.
Yeah.
I know I want to get into Fables now, and Danny, my wife, is a Fables nut. She owns everything in the trade paperback form and following everything up. Since then, she hasn't gotten into Ferris, but she's followed Fables up to...
These actual books?
Yeah, well, Fables is the comic book series put out by
Gotcha.
Vertigo.
Vertigo.
Yes, she's nodding yes. So yes, put out by Vertigo. And it's been running for a really long time. The only interaction I ever had with it, and like prior to this game, was that I always loved the covers because for a number of years, James Jean was doing the covers for them almost exclusively, and they're just these gorgeous paintings and things. But it's a rad series. I've wanted to get into reading it. But I don't think it's going to happen because I'm feeling the bug to start reading comic books, and I'm like, yeah, and there's not a ton of games I'm super invested in, and that's a lie because Bloodborne will be coming out next month, and that's gonna wreck everything. I can't wait for that game.
I thought that Bloodborne wasn't super high up on your list.
Bloodborne?
Yeah.
Oh god, yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know it was on
Dark
Danny's
Souls
list.
is a big deal. It's a BFD.
Okay. All right. I know that it was on Danny's list. I know it was on David's list.
Yeah.
I did not know it was on your list.
Oh,
I know
God.
you like those Japanese horror games.
Yeah, well, this is the first one that's going to have that feel. They've redone the aesthetic for it. Obviously, it's a way different game, even mechanically. It's quicker. They're taking out the kind of slogging Shields gameplay to it. But
It looked really, really, really dark.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even talking about content-wise. I'm talking about graphically.
Oh, yeah.
It looked incredibly dark.
yes, it's a very dark world of rainy, choking Victorian environments. They're all slick and black and covered in black blood and black monsters. And
I don't know
Did
if I
we-
like that.
oh, I'm so excited.
Did we give a shout out to the Complex last show? I don't believe so.
I don't think
The
so.
complex.
The Complex is out in Scarborough, and it's a comic book and gaming store. I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
great. It's very nice in there. It's not what you'd expect. It's a very welcoming environment. I can't wait to go back. And I'm kind of doing a little bit of like, stay local, buy local, because I'm plugging this comic book, Escape from Jesus Island by See, that's why I bought it, because it makes you want to laugh just right off the bat.
But then
And
you
also-
look at the cover and it's gory as hell.
Oh yeah, no, and I think these two things exist pretty well side by side in the comic book, because you get lines like "Bring me Jesus," and I mean, how could I say no? And so this comic book is apparently from a writer, Sean French, who's here in Maine, I believe actually in Portland. And there's a lovely little quote from Clive Barker, and if you don't know him, he's one of the princes of horror. May I recommend a comic by writer Sean French and artist Mortimer Glum. And if I can say something about the art for Mortimer Glum, it's absolutely gorgeous and rich and vibrant. And so when he goes twisted on it, the details pop out at you.
So what's the elevator pitch on the plot of Escape from Jesus Island?
Elevator pitch.
This will be good.
Yeah.
Sell me Escape from Jesus Island.
Come on, kid. I got a lot of
I got a lot of business here.
So they dig up the cross, and the only thing that still remains from it are the nails that are used to nail Jesus to the cross. Now, the CEO who's developing the land is dying from terminalist cancerous, the bad kind.
He's got the bad
You got
kind of
super cancer. Something awful.
They need to find some unobtainium.
I like it. All right. So cancer guy, cross, nails. What's next?
What's next is you clone Jesus, because who's going to fix the super cancer? A Messiah. Except it doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Things go real bad.
Well, they have to, since they're so convinced on this, they just have to produce more and more clones. So they need an island for all this horrible research to go on.
This Dr. Monroe of just
Yep.
Jesus clone.
Yep, that's a very close assumption on it. And the bad guy ends up dying, and his wife, who's gone through all of this horrible stuff, continues the experiments anyways. Why? Because she's batshit crazy lady.
Crazy.
Wow. So yeah, if you guys are looking for a way to cheer up in the cold winter months, we can recommend Escape from Jesus Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also picked up Saga Volume 3.
Yes.
And 4.
We are like we do only have 20 days left of winter.
A good buddy of mine, Nate Brown, fan of the podcast, he tried to turn me on to Saga back in the day. He was in on the ground floor of that trying to get that hype train going. I didn't listen. I don't read books. I'm one of those fools. I don't read the comic books.
You don't read the books, you don't do the maths.
I don't do the maths. I don't
Well,
read
you
the
do
books,
read the books, but only if they're Dungeons and Dragons.
I do read a lot of those books. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge reader, and he tried so hard. He tried to like sell me on. He showed me the art. I'm like, this looks rad. This sounds great. I'm gonna keep playing Dark Souls. But shout out to him for trying. From what I understand, those are like it's just a great series.
Yeah. Well, I lent your wife the volume 1 if you want to read it. Afterwards.
She's a reader. She's a lot smarter than me.
She is a lot smarter than you.
That's a fact.
That's true.
So that's what we're doing. We're trying to survive winter here in Portland. It's been rough.
Yeah.
Hit us up in the comments section here on the video or on our Facebook page. Let us know how you guys are weathering the storm. Particularly if any of you are in the worst hit areas. I know upstate New York is basically just a forgotten kingdom of ice.
And if you live in Boston, you may be among the tunnel people.
Yeah. I will tell you too, the Baron of the West End himself is going to be at PAX East. It's going to be a fantastic time. He's down there. He's our eyes. He's our ears. He should have business cards. Give him hugs. Give him love. Troll him. Do what you want. James is there for you.
Do what you want.
Do what you want with his body. Yes.
Please don't. I don't want to find a new roommate.
Send him to Jesus Island.
Yeah, we're going to
Michael, they touched me.
We're definitely going to be following up with him on his impressions from PAX and the time that he spent down there next week. And we got a couple other good shows playing coming up. You can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. We talk to you through Facebook and Twitter. And pretty much that's everywhere we are. I don't think we have any other social medias.
Have fun and stay classy.
Oh.